The world of the Yakuza is not what it used to be. Not long ago, these organized crime groups were a powerful and visible part of Japanese society. In the 1960s, at their peak, police estimated there were over 180,000 members. They walked the streets with confidence. Their presence felt in business, politics, and entertainment. Their offices, known as, were often marked with a crest, a bold statement of their territory. Everyone knew who they were and what they represented. It was a different era, a time when the lines between the legal world and the underworld were much blurrier than they are today. This was the golden age of the Yakuza, a period of immense power and influence that now seems like a distant memory. Today, the picture is completely different. The numbers tell a story of a world that is shrinking fast. By the start of 2025, Japan's National Police Agency reported that the total number of Yakuza members had fallen to a historic low, somewhere around 20,000 individuals. This is a staggering drop, a decline of nearly 90% from their peak. The massive syndicates that once dominated Japan, like the Yamaguchi-gumi, are now shadows of their former selves. Their ranks have thinned, and their public presence has all but disappeared. The once feared organizations are now struggling to simply exist, a dramatic reversal of their historical power and a sign of profound change within Japanese society. This decline is not a sudden event, but a slow, grinding process that has been happening for decades. Each year, the police release new numbers, and each year, the total gets smaller. Think of it like a giant ice sculpture melting under the sun. What was once a grand and imposing figure is now becoming a small, misshapen puddle. For example, in 2011, there were still around 70,000 members. By 2020, that number had been cut to less than 30,000. This steady downward trend shows that the factors causing the decline are persistent and effective. It's not just a temporary dip, it's a fundamental shift in the landscape of organized crime in Japan. The story these numbers tell is one of obsolescence. The Yakuza are becoming a relic of a bygone era. The social and economic conditions that allowed them to thrive for so long have vanished. They are like old samurai warriors in a world that no longer has a place for swordsmen. The government, the police, and the public have all turned against them in ways that were unimaginable 50 years ago. The once mighty river of new recruits has dried up, and the existing members are getting older, weaker, and fewer with each passing year. The era of the Yakuza as a major force in Japan is decisively coming to an end. The shrinking number of members is only one part of the problem facing the Yakuza. The other, perhaps more critical issue, is the age of the members who remain. The Yakuza is becoming an organization of old men. The average age of a Yakuza member today is over 50 years old. Astonishingly, more than half of all current members are now over the age of 50, with a significant number being in their 60s and even 70s. This is not the profile of a dynamic and fearsome criminal organization. It is the profile of a retirement club. The traditional image of the young, aggressive gangster ready for a street fight is now a fantasy. The reality is much more mundane and much less threatening. This aging demographic creates a strange and sad picture. Imagine a group of grandfathers trying to run a criminal enterprise. Their energy is low, their health is often poor, and their methods are outdated. They are more likely to be worried about their pensions and healthcare than about expanding their turf. This is the reality for many Yakuza groups today. Bosses in their 70s and 80s are trying to lead factions made up of men who are not much younger. The lack of young, physically capable members means they cannot perform the traditional roles of intimidation and enforcement that were once the bedrock of their power and influence in the streets. The reason for this graying is simple. There are almost no young recruits coming in to replace the older generation. For decades, the Yakuza relied on a steady stream of disaffected youth, dropouts and rebels, who saw the organization as a path to money, power, and a sense of belonging. This stream has now slowed to a trickle. Young people in Japan today have different aspirations and different problems. The Yakuza lifestyle, which once held a certain romantic appeal, is now seen as a dead-end street. Without new blood, any organization is doomed to grow old and eventually die out, and the Yakuza is no exception to this universal rule. This presents a crisis of continuity. A criminal syndicate needs young soldiers to do the dirty work, the risky jobs that older members can no longer handle. It needs fresh minds to adapt to new technologies and new criminal opportunities. The Yakuza has neither. They are stuck with an aging leadership and an aging membership, using old tactics in a rapidly changing world. It's like an old company that still uses typewriters and paper ledgers, while all its competitors are using advanced computers and the internet. The result is inefficiency, vulnerability, and a slow slide into irrelevance in the modern criminal underworld. So, why are young Japanese people turning their backs on the Yakuza? One of the biggest reasons is the law. For a long time, being a Yakuza member was not technically against the law. But new laws, especially the anti-organized crime laws and prefectural exclusion ordinances, have made life incredibly difficult. These laws don't just go after the group, they go after the person. A known Yakuza member can't open a bank account, rent an apartment, get a cell phone, or even join a gym. They are basically shut out of normal life. For a young person, joining the Yakuza means giving up the chance to ever live a normal life. This social and money-related isolation is a huge reason to stay away. In the past, a Yakuza could still be part of society in some ways. They could have families, own property, and run businesses that looked legitimate. Today they are treated like outcasts. As soon as people know they're Yakuza, doors close in their face. Imagine being 20 years old and being told you can never have a credit card, never lease a car, and never get a real loan. This is the future that joining the Yakuza offers. Young people look at this and see a life of constant problems and being left out. The promise of quick money isn't worth a lifetime of being treated like an outcast from society. Furthermore, the Yakuza's good name has been ruined. In the past, some Yakuza groups tried to look like Robin Hood. They said they followed a code of honor, the E, or chivalrous way. They showed themselves as protectors of regular people against a bad government or unruly foreigners. This idea was partly a made-up story, but it had some power. For example, after the Kobe earthquake in 1995, the Yamaguchi Gumi was one of the first to help out, which made some people think well of them. Today, this image is gone. The public now sees the Yakuza as nothing more than violent, selfish criminals who hurt the weak for money. The news and police have worked hard to get rid of this romantic idea. News reports today focus on the Yakuza being involved in cheating, forcing people to pay money, and selling drugs. The honor and good manners are gone, replaced by a reputation for small-time scams and brutal violence. Young people care a lot about what others think of them, especially in a society like Japan where everyone tries to fit in. They don't want to be connected to a group that everyone dislikes. The idea of being a noble outlaw has been replaced by the reality of being a common thug, and that's not something young people want to be. The legal pressure on the Yakuza cannot be overstated. It is the single most powerful weapon the Japanese government has used to dismantle them. The turning point was the implementation of the prefectural organized crime exclusion ordinances, which began rolling out across Japan around 2010. These local laws are clever because they do not punish the Yakuza directly. Instead, they punish any citizen or business that knowingly does business with them. This means a company that pays protection money, a landlord who rents them an office, or a construction firm that hires them for labor can face fines, public shaming, and the loss of their business licenses. It made the Yakuza toxic. This created a domino effect throughout the economy. Suddenly, the Yakuza's traditional sources of income started to dry up. For decades, they made money from sokaya, extorting money from corporate shareholder meetings, real estate deals, and involvement in the construction and entertainment industries. The exclusion ordinances made it too risky for legitimate companies to associate with them. Businesses that once paid the Yakuza for protection now saw them as a liability that could destroy their reputation and legal standing. This strategy effectively cut the Yakuza off from the mainstream economy, forcing them into the shadows and strangling their ability to earn money. Another powerful legal tool is the concept of designated Boryokudan, or designated violent groups. Once a group is officially designated by the police, its members are subject to even stricter controls. For example, members of a designated group are forbidden from gathering in groups of 5 or more at their office, or from intimidating people to resolve disputes. If they violate these rules, they can be arrested immediately. This law also holds the top boss of a designated group personally liable for the damages caused by his underlings. If a low-level member commits extortion, the victim can sue the head of the entire organization for compensation, putting the boss's personal wealth at risk. This legal responsibility has created immense fear and paranoia within Yakuza leadership. Bosses are now terrified that the actions of a reckless subordinate could lead to their own arrest and financial ruin. This has led to a much more cautious and risk-averse attitude. They are less willing to engage in the bold criminal activities of the past. The law has effectively turned the Yakuza's own hierarchical structure against them. The absolute loyalty that a boss once commanded is now a massive legal liability. This pressure from the top down has made the entire organization rigid, slow, and afraid to take the risks necessary for a criminal enterprise to profit. The Yakuza once operated under a carefully constructed public image. They called themselves chivalrous organizations, not violent groups, which is, the police term. This was honestly a brilliant piece of public relations. The codes supposedly bound them to help the weak and fight injustice. They would point to their history, claiming to be descendants of rogue samurai or noble gamblers who protected commoners. While, much of this was a myth, it gave them a social role to play. In some communities, they were seen as a necessary evil, keeping street crime in check and resolving disputes outside the slow and complicated legal system. This gave them a sliver of legitimacy. But this carefully polished image of the honorable outlaw has been shattered beyond repair. Decades of police crackdowns and negative media coverage have changed public perception completely. The Yakuza are no longer seen as quasi-legitimate community figures. Instead, they are viewed as parasites who engage in fraud, drug trafficking, and preying on the elderly and vulnerable. High-profile arrests have exposed their involvement in sophisticated scams, such as That's It's Me fraud, where they trick elderly people into sending them money by pretending to be a relative in trouble. These actions have generated widespread public disgust and anger. The loss of this honorable reputation is a critical blow because it severs their last remaining connection to mainstream society. You see, when the public saw them as having some semblance of a code, there was a degree of tolerance. That tolerance is now gone. Today, there is zero public sympathy for the Yakuza. This social hostility makes it easier for the government to pass even tougher laws against them, and it encourages ordinary citizens to report their activities to the police. The Yakuza are now completely isolated, surrounded by a society that views them with a mixture of fear, contempt, and pity. They have lost the public relations war. Without the mask of chivalry, the Yakuza are just another gang of criminals. This makes it impossible to attract recruits who are looking for more than just money. In the past, some young men were drawn to the Yakuza's promise of a structured life, a sense of brotherhood, and a warped sense of honor. They were joining a subculture with its own rules and traditions. Now joining the Yakuza simply means becoming a common criminal with a target on your back. The mystique is gone. All that remains is the stark reality of a difficult and dangerous life outside the law, with no social or ideological reward. In Japan's post-war economic boom, joining the Yakuza was, for some, a rational economic choice. For young men with poor education, no family connections, and few job prospects, the Yakuza offered a path to wealth and status that was otherwise unavailable. The legitimate economy had no place for them, but the underworld welcomed them. The promise of fast cars, expensive suits, and easy money was a powerful lure for those who felt left behind by society. The Yakuza provided an alternative ladder to success, albeit a dangerous and illegal one. It was a career path for those who had no other options. Today, the economic landscape in Japan is vastly different. While the country has faced economic stagnation, it remains a stable and relatively prosperous society with a low unemployment rate. There are more opportunities for young people than ever before, even for those without a university degree. The rise of the gig economy, part-time work, what's called arubaito, and a desperate need for workers in sectors like elderly care, construction, and logistics means that there are legitimate jobs available. A young person can earn a steady legal income without the risks that come with a life of crime. The choice is no longer between the Yakuza and poverty. The financial rewards of being a Yakuza member have also diminished significantly. The same laws that make it hard to be a member also make it hard to make money. With their traditional revenue streams drying up, many low-level Yakuza members are struggling financially, There are stories of gangsters having to take part-time jobs at convenience stores or construction sites just to make ends meet. The lavish lifestyle that was once a key recruiting tool is now a distant dream for most. A young person can look at a low-ranking Yakuza member and see someone who is not rich and powerful, but poor and struggling. This economic reality makes joining the Yakuza an illogical choice. Why would a young person risk arrest, social ostracism, and violence for a life that might be poorer than if they just got a regular job? The risk-to-reward ratio has shifted dramatically against the Yakuza. They can no longer offer a credible promise of wealth. The modern Japanese economy, for all its faults, provides a safer and more reliable path to a stable life. The Yakuza's economic carrot has shrunk, while the legal stick has grown much, much larger, making it an easy decision for most young people to simply walk away. The lack of young recruits and the aging of current members have created a severe leadership crisis within the Yakuza. An organization built on a rigid hierarchy needs a clear line of succession. The boss, Oyabun, needs capable lieutenants, or wakagashira, to manage the group's affairs and eventually take over. But with so few young, ambitious and competent members rising through the ranks, many groups are facing a future with no one to lead them. The old guard is retiring or dying off, and there is a vacuum of talent to fill their shoes. This is a fundamental threat to their long-term survival. This problem is made worse by internal splits and conflicts. The largest Yakuza syndicate, the Yamaguchi Gumi, has suffered from major fractures in recent years. In 2015, a large faction broke away to form the Kobe Yamaguchi Gumi, leading to a period of violent conflict. These splits are often driven by disputes over money and leadership succession. When a powerful organization weakens, ambitious underbosses see an opportunity to break away and form their own group, rather than wait their turn. This infighting further depletes their numbers and resources, making all the resulting factions weaker than the original whole. It is a process of self-destruction. When an old boss steps down or dies and there is no clear and strong successor, the group can simply dissolve. This is happening to smaller Yakuza families all across Japan. Without a leader to hold the organization together, the remaining members drift away, retire, or try to join other, more stable groups. A Yakuza family is not a corporation that can simply hire a new CEO from the outside. It relies on internal loyalty, tradition, and a recognized chain of command. When that chain is broken, the entire structure can collapse overnight. The organization simply ceases to exist. This creates opportunities for rival groups, but not in the way you might think. Instead of large-scale wars for territory, we are seeing the rise of a different kind of criminal, the hangore. These are semi-organized criminal groups that do not have the formal structure, tattoos, or traditions of the Yakuza. They are looser, more fluid networks of young criminals, who are often more tech-savvy and more ruthless. They are not bound by any code of honor. As the Yakuza fade, these hangure are moving in to fill the void, creating a new and perhaps more chaotic and unpredictable criminal landscape for the police to deal with. Faced with extinction, the remaining Yakuza groups are being forced to change their strategies. They are trying to adapt to the new reality, even if it means abandoning their old ways. One major shift is moving into more sophisticated, less visible forms of crime. Instead of traditional extortion and gambling, they are becoming more involved in complex financial fraud, stock market manipulation, and cybercrime. These crimes are harder for police to trace and do not require physical intimidation. It is a move from street-level thuggery to white-collar crime, an attempt to find new revenue streams that are not blocked by the exclusion ordinances. Another survival tactic is downsizing and forming alliances. Many smaller Yakuza families have dissolved, with their members being absorbed into larger, more stable syndicates. This consolidation makes the surviving group slightly stronger, but it does not solve the overall problem of shrinking numbers. Additionally, rival groups that were once at war are now sometimes making peace deals. They realize that fighting each other is a waste of their dwindling resources and only attracts more police attention. It is a peace born not of goodwill, but of shared desperation. They are huddling together for warmth as the long winter of their decline sets in. Some Yakuza groups are even trying to go legitimate, at least on the surface. They are investing their remaining money into front companies that appear to be normal businesses, such as construction companies, waste management firms, or talent agencies. The goal is to create a source of income that is legal and cannot be easily targeted by the police. However, it is very difficult for them to completely escape their past. The police are vigilant in monitoring these front companies, and the exclusion ordinances still make it hard for any business secretly linked to the Yakuza to operate freely. This strategy is more about hiding than it is about genuine reform. Perhaps the most surprising change is the Yakuza's attempt to re-engage with media, not to threaten, but to explain. Some Yakuza bosses have given rare interviews or allowed documentary crews to film them, trying to present a more human side to their predicament. They complain about the harshness of the laws and the loss of their traditions. They are trying to generate some form of sympathy, to argue that they are a part of Japan's cultural heritage that is being unfairly destroyed. It is a last-ditch public relations effort, an appeal from a dying world, but it is one that finds very little sympathy from the Japanese public or the authorities. The question everyone is asking is whether this is the end of the Yakuza. All the evidence points towards a terminal decline. The numbers are collapsing, the members are aging, the laws are suffocating them, and society has rejected them completely. It is very difficult to see how they can reverse this trend. The social and economic conditions that created the Yakuza and allowed them to flourish for over a century are gone. It seems highly likely that within another generation, the Yakuza as we know them, the large structured syndicates with their elaborate tattoos and feudal codes, will have vanished from Japan. However, saying that organized crime itself will disappear is a different matter. Crime is like water. It always finds a way to flow. As the Yakuza recede, other forms of criminal organization are emerging. The hangure, the lawless, unstructured youth gangs, are a major concern for police. They are harder to track because they lack the formal hierarchy and public presence of the Yakuza. They are more willing to use technology and to commit crimes that cross international borders. The end of the Yakuza might not mean the end of organized crime, but rather its transformation into something new and potentially more dangerous. So, the Yakuza may not have a future, but their legacy will create the future of crime in Japan. The vacuum they leave will be filled. The criminal underworld is not disappearing. It is restructuring. The next generation of criminals will learn from the Yakuza's mistakes. They will avoid public visibility, formal membership, and anything else that makes them an easy target for law enforcement. They will operate in the digital world as much as the physical one. The police, in turn, will have to adapt their own strategies to combat this new, more nebulous form of organized crime. In the end, the story of the Yakuza is a lesson in how societies can change. An institution that once seemed permanent and powerful can be dismantled by a combination of legal pressure, economic change, and a shift in public values. The Yakuza are becoming a historical artifact, a fascinating but fading chapter in Japan's modern history. Their shadows are long, but they are growing fainter with each passing year. The sun is setting on their world, and it is unlikely to ever rise again. The so-called chivalrous organizations are facing their final, unceremonious chapter.